Aurora Station drifted in silent orbit above the blue-white curve of a peaceful planet. The station was a huge, shining structure made of glass-like panels and gentle curves, designed by many species working together. In the middle of this grand station sat the biome of Scifi in harmony, a wide, beautiful environment created to make one special species feel at home, the Scifian dragons. Even though Aurora Station was famous for advanced research, trade, and interspecies cooperation, the biome was the area most visitors wished to see. It was filled with tall, glowing trees, floating pollen lights, soft rivers, colorful stones, and warm, shimmering air. Some said stepping into the biome felt like entering a dream. For the dragons, it was simply their comfort place. For Evan Cole, a human cleaner, it was part of his daily route. Evan never imagined he would work in a place so majestic. He was an ordinary man with ordinary skills, happy to keep things tidy and functioning. He had no special training in alien science, no fancy background, and no unique abilities. He just worked with quiet dedication, moving from one area of the station to another, making sure every corner stayed clean, safe, and peaceful. Today, like every morning, he entered the biome with his cleaning bag, a portable broom, a leaf collector, and a small sensor fixer kit. The moment he stepped inside, warm light fell over him. The trees hummed soft, gentle tones. The air carried a sweet scent like flowers mixed with fresh rain. It made him smile every time. "Morning, everyone," he said quietly, even though no one around him spoke human languages out loud. The Scifian dragons usually communicated through mind touch, a delicate, musical telepathic method. Although they did not use spoken words often, they were polite and friendly. A few adult dragons sometimes gave Evan a soft greeting in their own way, a warm wave of peaceful emotion drifting into his mind like a calm breeze. He always nodded back, feeling honored. But there was one dragon who never sent anything. Never a mind touch, never a sound, never any form of communication. Her name was Leary. She was small, very small for a Scifian dragon. Her scales were pale, shimmering silver that glowed faintly in the light. Her eyes were large, bright, and full of curiosity, yet also full of an unexplainable quietness. While the other young dragons played in the floating gardens, learned communication skills, or glided happily through the warm air, Leary stayed alone near the crystal pond. She never made a sound. She never spoke mind to mind. She never reached out. She only watched. Evan had noticed her on his very first week. As he swept fallen petals from around the pond, he saw the little dragon sitting still like a small statue, her tail wrapped neatly around her feet. Her eyes followed the gentle movement of the broom as if it were something important. He had smiled at her then, not knowing she would soon become the quiet center of his routine now. Several months later, he found her in the same spot as always. "Morning, Leary," he said softly, walking toward the pond. "You're early today." She didn't blink or move her head right away. She simply looked at him, as if processing every word carefully. Then her tail uncurled slightly, which Evan had learned was her way of saying she wasn't bothered by his presence. Evan set down his bag. He liked talking while he worked. Even though he was used to being alone, the biome felt too peaceful to stay silent. And Leary, quiet as she was, made the space feel less empty. "I'm fixing the pond sensors today," Evan explained, crouching beside the water. "They've been giving bad readings. Makes the water temperature shift. We can't have that. You dragons like everything balanced." He pulled out his small repair tool and opened the sensor panel. Leary leaned forward just a little, curious as always. He continued, "When I was a kid, I used to fix little gadgets like this too. My mom said I was good with my hands. Not sure how true that was, but I guess it worked out." Leary blinked slowly, her eyes reflecting the golden light. Evan took that blink as encouragement. "You probably don't understand me," he said, smiling, "but talking helps me concentrate. And you're a good listener." He tightened a few tiny screws, checked the wiring, and tapped the screen. The sensor glowed green. "There we go," he announced proudly. A soft ripple moved across the pond's surface, as if the water itself was happy with the repair. Leary's wings gave a barely noticeable tremble. Evan had learned that meant she was pleased. He moved on to sweeping up fallen petals that floated down from the luminous trees overhead. The petals glowed gently, and every time he brushed them into the collector bag. Leary's gaze followed the movement with patient interest. "You like watching this, don't you?" Evan chuckled. "Maybe you just enjoy seeing things get cleaned up. Or maybe you're bored. If I were a kid your age, I'd want to do something fun too." Leary slowly tilted her head to the right, her way of saying she was thinking. "You know," Evan added, "the other dragons talk. They can speak telepathically, sing, even tell jokes. But you stay quiet. That's okay, you know. Everyone grows at their own speed." He paused, making sure his words were gentle. "It's not a bad thing to be quiet." Leary blinked again, and her wings shifted in a soft, silvery shimmer. For a moment, she looked almost as if she wanted to say something, but no sound came. Evan never pushed her. He had no idea why she didn't speak. Some staff believed she was simply shy. Others thought she hadn't learned how to communicate yet. A few whispered theories about natural differences in dragon development, but Evan never joined those discussions. He didn't need explanations to treat her with kindness. He simply accepted her silence as he moved to another area to clean the walkway stones. Leary stood up, something she rarely did when others were nearby. She took a few gentle steps after him, her claws lightly tapping the soft crystal ground. "Oh," Evan said softly, surprised but happy. "You're following me today." She stopped a little distance away, looking half curious, half cautious. "That's all right," he said gently. "You can stay as long as you want." He worked for another hour, wiping panels and trimming plant edges. The dragons liked everything neat because their senses were very delicate. Evan made sure every plant, stone, and walkway matched the biome's calm beauty. Leary remained behind him the entire time, silent but watching with full focus. Sometimes she tilted her head. Sometimes she blinked slowly. Every movement seemed thoughtful. Evan eventually sat down on a large, smooth stone and rested. He wiped his forehead. "You know," he said quietly to Leary, "humans talk so much. We fill every moment with sound. But you understand stillness. You remind me to slow down." Leary lowered herself to the ground across from him, folding her wings neatly. She looked at him as though she understood every word. "I don't know if you'll ever speak," Evan continued softly, "but that's okay. You're special the way you are." A warm breeze drifted through the biome, brushing gently against Evan and Leary. For a moment, everything felt like it held its breath: trees, water, and even the humming air. Evan didn't know it yet, but the soft calm surrounding them was the first sign of something important. Waking inside the little dragon, he packed his tools and stood up. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said with his usual smile. "Same time, I'll tell you another story, all right?" Leary blinked once, then, very slowly, her tail curled forward. Evan didn't realize it, but for her, that was a promise. He left the biome without knowing that his simple kindness, his ordinary words, and his patient presence were becoming something extraordinary in the life of a quiet little dragon. He also didn't know that far above, hidden among the glowing branches, someone else had been watching silently, someone who cared deeply about Leary. Someone who noticed the change beginning. But that part, Evan would discover much later. The next morning on Aurora Station, everything looked calm on the outside. But inside the biome of Scifi and harmony, a quiet excitement filled the air. The crystal trees glowed a little brighter, the warm breeze hummed a little softer, and the tiny pollen lights drifted around like small floating stars. Something special had happened the day before. Leary, the little silver dragonling who had never spoken before, had made her very first word. One soft, gentle word. A word that meant friend, and though the moment was small, it created a deep change inside her heart. When Evan entered the biome that morning with his broom and tools, he immediately felt something was different. The air seemed lighter, almost joyful. The glowing leaves sparkled like they were quietly celebrating. He smiled without knowing why. "Feels like a happy day." He looked around for Leary, expecting her to be by the pond like always. But she wasn't there. He blinked in surprise. Leary rarely changed her spot. "Leary?" he called gently. Before he could take another step, something moved behind a cluster of shimmering rocks. A small silver nose peeked out, then a pair of bright eyes. Then Leary herself stepped forward, slowly but surely, holding her wings a little higher than usual. Evan's face lit up. "There you are." Leary walked toward him with more confidence than he had ever seen in her. She stopped only a short distance away and looked up at him with a soft glow in her eyes. Evan chuckled softly. "Are you hiding today? Or practicing your grand entrance?" Leary blinked twice happily. Evan crouched down so he was closer to her height. "Hey, about yesterday." He smiled warmly. "You were amazing." Leary shifted her wings proudly. "You don't have to talk again right away," he said. "Just knowing you tried once is already wonderful." Leary took a small breath, her body glowing faintly. But she didn't speak again yet. Instead, she sat down gently, curling her tail neatly around her feet. She looked relaxed, but also eager, as if she was waiting for him to begin talking again. Evan gladly did. "All right," he said, pulling out his cleaning tools. "Let's start with these walkway stones." He began sweeping, and like always, Leary watched. But unlike before, she moved with him, walking alongside him as he cleaned the path. Evan pretended not to notice at first, not wanting to make her feel pressured. But after a few minutes, he glanced down at her and said softly, "You're very brave today." Leary's eyes shone with gentle pride. In the crystal canopy high above them, hidden carefully between tall glowing branches, Queen Scifi observed the two quietly. She was a large, graceful dragon, her scales shining gold and white, her wings forming patterns like folded light. Her presence was majestic, calm, and full of gentle strength. She watched with warm eyes as her daughter followed the human cleaner with soft steps. Queen Scifi had been watching for many days, but now she watched with new emotion. Hoped for so long, she had worried about Leary's silence. The other young dragons began speaking months ago, their voices light and musical, their telepathy clear and bright. But Leary had remained quiet completely, absolutely quiet. No sound, no telepathic hum, not even a whisper. Dragons usually expressed emotion through gentle mind touch. Yet Leary's mind had remained closed, not out of fear, but perhaps uncertainty. Scifi had tried everything to help her daughter's soft songs, quiet guidance, comforting presence. Nothing ever changed. Leary stayed locked inside her gentle silence. But then came the human, the quiet cleaner who spoke simple stories while sweeping leaves. The one who treated Leary not as someone different or difficult, but simply as a small friend who deserved kindness and patience. He never demanded anything, never rushed her, never tested her abilities. He just talked, smiled, and worked. And Leary's heart responded to that gentle presence in a way no royal lesson ever had. Scifi's great wings shimmered with quiet admiration. Her daughter had spoken her first word because of him. A simple human, yet someone with a warm spirit. She watched Leary closely. The little dragon kept glancing upward now and then, as if sensing her mother's presence. But Leary did not want her mother to reveal herself yet. Leary wanted to learn quietly. Leary wanted to grow gently. And Scifi respected that, a gentle lesson back on the ground. Evan moved to the pond. He sat down and took out a small device shaped like a cube. "See this, Leary?" he asked. "It helps measure sound patterns. I thought maybe it could help us understand vibrations better." Leary sat close, her tail curling in interest. Evan tapped the cube, and it released a soft hum, steady and smooth. "This is a simple tone," he explained. "It helps machines talk to each other." Leary leaned forward, ears twitching. "It's like the first step to making a voice," Evan continued. "Even humans start with simple sounds before real words." Leary's throat moved slightly, her body reacting to the gentle hum. Evan noticed. "Do you feel it?" She blinked once. He smiled. "It's okay if you just listen. You don't have to try anything today." Leary looked at him carefully, understanding his quiet reassurance. He placed the cube between them. Leary gently touched it with her small claw. The cube responded with a slightly higher note, soft and pretty. Leary stared at the cube, clearly fascinated. "That's right," Evan said softly. "You made it change sound." That's communication too. The little dragon's eyes lit up with wonder. She tapped the cube again. Another sound came. Her tail swayed gently above them. Queen Seraphil watched with deep gratitude. Her daughter was blooming not through pressure, but through kindness, the queen's thoughts in her high perch. Seraphil thought quietly. Humans are unpredictable, she reflected. Sometimes loud, sometimes strange, sometimes curious. But this human was different. He did not approach her daughter with expectations. He used no advanced tools or scientific tests. He held no grand title, no special authority on their species. He was simply a cleaner who performed small tasks with careful hands and a gentle heart, yet he had done something the Cerethian Council could not do. He gave Lyri the courage to try. Seraphil felt warmth spread through her chest. She knew that soon she would have to reveal herself to him, not to frighten him, but to thank him. For now, however, she remained hidden, allowing Lyri her moment of quiet discovery. The bond growing stronger as Evan continued cleaning. Lyri followed him silently. Sometimes she walked beside him, sometimes a few steps behind. But her presence was constant. Evan began to tell another story while he worked, knowing she enjoyed listening. When I was a kid, he said, wiping a crystal panel, I used to watch birds back on Earth. I liked how different each bird was. Some were big, some small. Some sang loudly, some softly. Lyri listened with her eyes wide open. But the quiet ones, Evan continued, were the ones I liked most. They didn't need loud songs. They had meaning in their silence. They were calm, thoughtful. A little like you, actually. Lyri blinked again, touched by the comparison. Evan didn't realize how meaningful his words were. He was simply speaking from his heart. He finished cleaning and sat on a large, smooth stone. You did great today, Lyri, even without words. You're talking a lot. Lyri curled up near his feet, close but not too close, as if showing quiet trust. The moment was peaceful. Warm. Perfect. But above them, something shifted. Queen Seraphil stepped forward slightly, making the crystal leaves tremble with a gentle sound. It was not loud enough for Evan to notice, but Lyri looked up immediately. Her mother was watching with pride. And soon, very soon, the queen would come down from her hidden perch to meet the human who had given her daughter the gift of courage. For now, she remained silent, observing as the bond between Evan and Lyri grew stronger with every passing moment, and the biodome glowed brighter than ever, almost as if it was smiling. The next morning arrived gently on Aurora's station, but inside the Cerethian biodome, it felt almost magical. The warm light that shone through the crystal leaves seemed brighter than ever. Soft humming tones drifted through the air, like the trees themselves were whispering a welcome. Evan entered with his cleaning tools hanging from his shoulder. He took a deep breath, smiling at the familiar scent of glowing flowers. Another peaceful day, he said to himself. He looked around for Lyri, expecting her to come bounding or gently stepping toward him. He had grown used to her silent companionship, but today she wasn't waiting by the pond or hiding behind the rocks. Instead, he heard a tiny sound, a soft note, almost like a small musical bell. Evan froze, then turned slowly. There she was. Lyri stood at the center of a sunlit clearing, her wings half raised, her silver scales sparkling with confidence. She stepped toward him with a proud little walk. Evan's heart softened. Good morning, Lyri. Lyri blinked happily. She tapped her claws on the ground, creating a tiny rhythm. It was not speech, but it was clearly communication. She had discovered another way to express herself. Evan knelt down and smiled. You're full of surprises, aren't you? Lyri puffed her chest slightly, proud of herself. A strange feeling in the air. Evan stood to begin his work, but something felt unusual. The air was warmer and seemed filled with gentle pressure, like a soft blanket around his shoulders. Even the trees rustled with a low, melodic hum. Evan looked around slowly. Feels like something big is happening today, he murmured. Lyri looked upward suddenly, her bright eyes widening. She sensed someone. Her tail curled forward in excitement. Evan followed her gaze, but he saw nothing except shining branches. Is someone up there? He whispered. He didn't expect an answer, But the biodome suddenly fell silent, completely silent. Even the soft humming of the trees paused. A moment later, a warm golden light spread across the branches above. Flowing downward like morning sunlight poured from the sky itself. Evan stepped back, breath caught in his throat. The light took shape. Wings appeared, first huge, shimmering, delicate as glass but strong as pure memory. Then a long, graceful neck emerged, covered in smooth golden white scales. Finally, a pair of wise, glowing eyes came into view. A dragon. Not just any dragon. Queen Seraphil, the matriarch of the Cerethian dragons. She descended slowly, her wings spreading wide, filling the biodome with gentle light. Evan froze. He had seen her from far distances before, but never like this, never close, never face to face, and never descending directly toward him. He quickly stepped backward, unsure what to do. I. He swallowed hard. I'm just a cleaner. I don't want to disturb anything. Seraphil landed softly, her wings folding with elegant ease. Despite her massive size, her presence felt calm and warm, like a peaceful sunrise. Evan bowed quickly, awkwardly, nearly dropping his mop. Your Majesty, I'm sorry if I did something wrong. Queen Seraphil lowered her head gently, her eyes glowing with kindness. You have done nothing wrong, said a soft voice, except it wasn't spoken aloud. It was a gentle, musical telepathic message that filled the air like a warm breeze. Evan blinked in surprise. Are you speaking to me? Directly? The queen nodded, her gaze full of calm wisdom. Lyri moved forward, standing proudly beside her mother. She looked at Evan with shining eyes. Evan's breath softened. Oh, so this is about Lyri. Seraphil's wings shimmered, sending soft patterns of light across the biodome. It is about her. Her voice echoed gently in Evan's mind. And it is about you. Evan pointed at himself, confused. Me? I didn't do anything important. I just talked while cleaning. The queen stepped closer. Despite her enormous size, every movement she made was graceful and filled with care. As if she didn't want to frighten him. You gave my daughter something no one else could give. She told him. You gave her the courage to speak. Evan felt his chest tighten. I didn't even try to teach her. I just shared stories and listened. That is why you succeeded, the queen said. She lowered her head until her golden eyes were level with Evan's. For many months, Lyri stayed quiet, not because she lacked ability, but because she lacked comfort. She did not feel safe enough to try. Until he arrived, Evan looked at Lyri. She blinked at him softly, her tail curling forward in her usual affectionate gesture. But I'm just me, he whispered. I'm nobody special. Queen Seraphil's gaze softened. Kindness makes anyone special. Those words echoed gently in his mind, warm and sincere. Evan felt his eyes sting slightly. I didn't know she was listening so closely. The queen lifted her great wings slightly. Lyri watches the world with careful eyes. She listened to you because you spoke with patience. You asked for nothing. You expected nothing. And that is why she followed your voice. Lyri stepped forward proudly. She looked at Evan, her small chest rising with courage. Then she spoke softly, gently, but clearly. Friend, the same word as yesterday, but stronger, steadier. Evan covered his mouth in amazement. You did it again. Lyri, you're incredible. Lyri's wings fluttered with joy. The queen's gift, and Queen Seraphil turned her great head toward Evan. Evan, coal of earth. She said softly, your kindness has built a bridge between our species. A bridge made not of science or strategy, but of simple understanding. Evan blinked. I just talked while cleaning. Double quotes, yes, the queen said. And that simple act created a miracle. She stepped forward gently, lowering her neck. In honor of your spirit, I offer you a title held by very few humans. Evan's heart began to race. A title? Lyri lifted her head proudly, as if she knew what was coming. Queen Seraphil's wings shimmered again, and a soft golden light wrapped around Evan like a warm embrace. From this day forward, you shall be known as the Bridge Keeper. Evan's mouth fell open slightly. Bridge Keeper? One who helps hearts meet, the queen explained. One who connects different beings through kindness. You have done this without even trying. Evan felt his knees weaken. It wasn't a title for power or fame, it was an honor of the heart. Something gentle, something meaningful. I don't know what to say, he whispered. You do not need to say anything, the queen replied. Just continue being yourself. Leary touched her nose gently to Evan's hand. Her small way of giving thanks. Evan knelt down and stroked the soft scales on her head. I'm so proud of you, Leary, and I promise I'll keep being here for you. Leary blinked warmly. Queen Sarathil lifted her head high, her wings spreading like living sunlight. Human and dragon, she said softly, are closer today because of one simple cleaner with a gentle voice. Evan felt his heart swell. He wasn't a scientist, a hero, or a leader, but somehow he had made a difference just by being patient and caring. He finally understood. Small acts can create big changes. Quiet kindness can awaken silent hearts. And sometimes, the most ordinary person becomes extraordinary by accident. Sarathil took off into the air, her wings casting shimmering patterns across the biome as she returned to the crystal canopy. Leary stayed by Evan's side. She looked up at him and quietly repeated, "Friend," and Evan smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of her voice and the beginning of a new bond between two very different worlds.